we're going to go ahead and get started. I thought what we could do, since we're talking about all things Academy, is I thought we could have David Smith kind of kick things off for us today and talk about his vision for the Academy and how he sees it being used and why he came up with the idea for this. So, David, if you want to take it away, we'll go from there.
Thank you, Reed. Thanks to all of you for joining us today. I am so very excited to introduce you all to the vision behind the One on One Sales Academy. Um, Last evening, my family joined over 200 guests at the Gatesworth, my flagship community in St. Louis, to celebrate the Jewish New Year. For those of you who celebrate Lashana Tova, I was reminded once again, being in that crowd and surrounded by friends and residents and family members, how much I love senior living and what it does for residents and their families. Yet, as you know, despite the overwhelming benefits that we offer at our communities, collectively we still only service about 10% of age and income qualified seniors. I know we can do better. I've thought that for a long time. Back in 1988, as a first time owner operator, I personally attempted to fill the Gatesworth with a volume and velocity sales approach. Yet, despite incredible features, a great location, um, quality services and amenities, and very few prospects converted, it was hard. The refrain then, much like it is today, was, you know what I'm going to say, I'm not ready yet. During my trial and error approach to filling the Gatesworth, and then several dozen turnaround communities across the US and Canada after that, I continued to search for a way to help prospects get ready. That seemed to be the missing piece. In 2002, I was introduced and began exploring the psychology of change. I discovered motivational interviewing and stages of readiness for change. I knew I was onto something that could be adapted into a viable approach to helping higher functioning senior adults get ready. The prospect centered selling model grew out of that discovery. PCS and its five foundational pillars are the central focus of the Sales Academy. That's unique in our industry. So this is not instead of better product models or more effective marketing, but rather in addition to those things, we can also convert more. Prospect-centered selling is a field-tested, proven approach to increasing sales conversions and occupancy rates, especially with higher functioning prospects. With the Sales Academy, PCS becomes an organic, evolving, and this is important, collaborative sales approach that includes ongoing feedback and instruction from some of the industry's most successful sales professionals. The Sales Academy offers continuous, interactive, and on demand learning that can be either self directed or professionally guided by Reed and our experienced learning team. Finally, the Sales Academy offers multiple learning options: live or remote training, weekly podcasts, monthly webinars like this one, and live events like our upcoming Sales Summit this December. We're also working on some new learning format options for 2026, including a live online prospect planning lab. Won't that be cool? You can submit your prospect profiles and have input from our learning professionals and your peers into doing an action plan. We're going to do a professionally published book of all of our master classes, along with the additional resources and pre and post quizzes. And finally, in 2026, we're working on a really incredible AI simulation game. So there'll be a lot more about that to come. But meantime, for an introduction to the Sales Academy, here's Reed, Patrick, and Piers.
Thank you, David. You would think by this time, after 6 years on Zoom, I would have figured out how to mute and unmute myself. So So today, and thank you for that introduction, David. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to cover kind of why the academy, what importance continuous learning brings, and how it can help you with sales. We're going to touch on how to use the academy with Patrick and Piers, and then we're going to talk about what's to come too. So I'm excited. I thought what we could do is we could jump in initially, and what I would like to do is kind of go through. I found some really interesting studies on adult learning. And so I wanted to walk through those as kind of a way to point out the importance of ongoing learning because one of the things that I've heard so much over my career, and whether it was when I was heading up training and coaching for a line, or now as the chief learning officer with the academy, or when I was corporate director of sales, one of the things that I would always hear is that I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to either put information into the CRM, or I don't have enough time to do this, and I don't have enough time to do that. And so it was really interesting to me as we started the academy and looking at, some of the ways that people really take in learning. And so I wanted to share some of these stats with you. So the first one that I'm going to show you is that there was a report done by LinkedIn Workforce. And what I thought was really interesting is that it said 8 out of 10 employees say that learning adds purpose to their work. And so, one of the things that we try to do is we want to try to create a short amount of information that you could take in, whether that's on a daily, a weekly, or monthly basis. And Patrick's going to go through that here in a little bit to be able to pick up on something new every time that you come into the academy. And so, furthermore, when we looked at that workforce report, it said that 7 out of 10 people say that learning adds purpose to their work. And so, one of the things that I've been really fortunate to do with the academy is that it seems to be bringing out so many companies that are really invested in learning. And so slowing down enough in kind of our daily roles to really take the time to be a continuous learner. And even if we're at 95% or 100%, to be able to absorb some new content, to be able to continue to kind of grow ourselves. And so there was another survey that was done by a global network that focuses on surveys and corporations. And what they found was that 72% of employees said that they wanted new learning opportunities, but that only 2% of companies actually effectively offer new learning opportunities. And so we're really excited that we've had so many early adapters to the academy because we see that it is something that is incredibly important to employees and it helps. And one of the things that I thought was the most staggering report was that when you take all of that and combine it and you look at being able to provide purpose to your workplace and purpose to your day, is that there was a report by the State of the Global Workplace and what they found was that people who really enjoyed their workplace and have a highly engaged workplace where learning is something that is, really kind of comes from the top down. And I know that's one thing that Pierce is going to talk about is that they find that those organizations actually have a 20% increase in sales. And I thought that was really incredible that when we empower our teams, we make them feel seen and heard the same way that I hope we're doing with our prospects, that we have the ability to be able to increase sales because we've been able to increase knowledge. And so that's a really exciting idea and a really exciting thing to be able to look at as we kind of come into the academy. And I saw one of the greatest examples, I think, I thought I saw Luke Pastor join us from Welcome Home. And one of the things that's always stuck out to me about Luke, I think from the very first time I met him at a conference, is that he was always taking notes and always learning. And one of the things that I really enjoyed is that after he attends these conferences, I love that he goes out on LinkedIn and posts, hey, here's some of the things that I learned. Here's some of the things that I absorbed because I think as we continue to grow as professionals, I think the most successful people are the ones that are always open to feedback, to learning. It's like if you get secret shopped by your corporate office or your company's secret shops. I've never quite understood why a salesperson takes offense to that, or sometimes why sales teams can get a little bit kind of up in a fluff about that. Because if we look at and use it as a sports analogy, professional athletes, the very first thing that they do is they go back the next day into the office and they look at game tape and they see what did we do well, what could we have done better. And I think that if we took that approach as sales professionals, I think it could profoundly impact the amount of success that we have with our prospects, because the only people that we can normally practice on are the prospects. And so that was the whole idea behind the academy. And so what I would like to do now is I'm going to jump in and I'm going to show you kind of a tour of the academy and a really kind of deep dive tour of the academy, how you can use it at a community level, what you can get in there and see. And then I'm going to turn things over to Patrick so that he can walk you through kind of the roadmap for success that he finds with his team based on the 5 pillars. And so I'm going to reshare my screen here again. And so as I'm going through here, I would highly encourage everybody, ask questions, right? Butt in. Listen, I've been presenting for long enough. If you guys just blurt a question out, you're not going to throw me off my game. Okay. So I love questions. So ask away. So what you're going to see is that when you log into your academy, everybody's academy is going to look just a little bit different. And the reason that is because one, I hope that you guys don't all use my same avatar. I hope that you put your own picture in, that you individualize this when you sign in. It'll say, welcome. I'll show you guys where to be able to change your information in there. But the first thing that you're going to see when you jump into the academy here is you're going to see the very last place that you left off. And so if you guys think about this from the standpoint of this is kind of like Netflix meets Spotify meets YouTube meets TED Talk. And so, except, I don't know about you guys, but when I jump back into Netflix, I can never fricking find where I left off, where that section moves all the time. Here, it's front and center every single time you log back into your dashboard. So you'll be able to pick right back up. So if you have a tour that walks in, if you have a phone call, you get an email. If you're anything like me, you will quickly forget what you were doing because you start doing something else and then something else and then something else and then something else. And then 2 days later, you're like, oh, hot dang, I forgot I was watching Kristen's masterclass. So you'll be able to jump right back in there. What I want to focus on first, I'm going to focus on the dashboard here because this is going to be the main area where you're going to dive in every day. And so as we scroll down here, what you're going to see is there's a nice green section that's over here on the left-hand side. These are going to be the videos that as we're onboarding everybody, these are the ones that we want you guys to watch first. These are the ones that we think are the most important part of the academy that will really help to set you up for future success. So what you can see is there's an introduction to the Sales Academy. There is the Time to Get Ready documentary, which I'll talk a little bit more about here in a minute. If you haven't seen that, I would highly encourage you to watch it. And then there's a sales expert interview that's done with several sales experts from around the industry talking about the importance of ongoing learning and being able to improve your sales skills in this industry. So we would encourage you guys to jump into there first. The next section that you're going to see here is this is going to be your event section and your top content picks. And so what you're going to see is this very first section is going to be the next event that we have coming up, which is right now. You're in it. You don't have to worry about this second because it's going to change tomorrow. And so this is going to be kind of your quick glance for where you can always get in, get caught back up. We're going to start our book club coming up here at the beginning of the year. So that'll be where the book club meetings are going to be held. Your next webinar is going to be there. The live event that we're having in December will eventually be there. So it's your place to be able to get caught up. You can actually click into that. You can view the event in a little bit more detail. You can register for the event. If you're interested in going, you can click there. And then you can click here to be able to register for the event as well. But what we try to do is give you guys enough information for everything that's in the portal so that you can read it at a quick glance and go, you know what? I think that's for me. And so you can see there's a quick description here. There is the presenters here, David and myself. We did not include Patrick or Pierce, although maybe we should have. And then there's a couple of resources here as well. So what you can do is you can go in here, click on this. I'll show you where else these live, but this is the recommended book list that we have. And then we have a senior housing news article on prospect-centered selling as well. So there's always going to be resources tied to everything that we have here in the portal. And then as you'll see on some other pages too, we have, hey, if you like this, you're going to like this as well. So there's the recommended content that's going to be on there as well. So I'm going to jump back over to the dashboard here. Hopefully I don't jump around too fast for you guys, but I wanted to click through all of these things so that you could see the different layers in the academy. The next section here, these are going to be the top content picks. So these are going to be what people are watching, what's the newest content. So what you can see is Mike Miller, his master class, which is Stop Selling and Start Caring, is one of the top content picks. If you see the heart here that is green, what that means is that this is one of my favorite videos. So you can go in and build out your favorite videos. Maybe it's one that you're like, you know what, I need to go in and watch that. I haven't had a chance to yet. You can do that. I'll show you where these live here in a second. And then right next to that, you're going to find our newest content. And so what I can tell you guys is from a academy standpoint, one of our biggest goals is to keep things fresh. And so what we want to do is we provide you new content on a weekly basis in terms of a podcast. I'll show you where you can access that on the Academy, and then I'll show you how to access this in just a second on the go, so on your phone as well. And I would highly encourage you guys, listen, if you're going to check out one of the podcasts and watch the videos, you should check out Anya Fisher's podcast on creative follow-up. She gives some specific examples. She is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm going to post on our LinkedIn group. I'll encourage you guys to go join that. I want you guys to count how many different cups she drinks out of during her podcast. And if you send me in or if you message me with the right answer, I'll send you one of our newest one-on-one Sales Academy stickers. So I was amazed during the podcast how many different cups she was drinking out of. And so something to pay attention to on that. So that is the kind of top content, top pick area there. The next section here is going to be some resources, a way to connect with everybody in the academy, and then a way to be able to take the academy on the go. So the first thing that I'm going to show you guys here is this is going to be the One-on-One Sales Academy blog. And so this is an area where we're able to feature not only articles by David and myself, but other articles that have been written as well. Some of these tie to the Sales Academy, some of them tie to just sales and senior living, and then some of them just kind of tie to life lessons that we apply in our professional lives as well. So I wrote a blog earlier, or I guess probably about this time last year, about a leadership lesson from my, at the time, 14-year-old and her new softball coach, and how it really applied to me and kind of made me go, you know what, that can apply to us in the sales world as well. And I think a lot of what we face. So I would encourage you guys, jump in there, read these. There's some wonderful blog articles in there. There's even some sales tips from David, some of his memoirs or memories from his book, some sections from there on learning. So there's several different things in the blog that you can check out and use for your team. The next section that I'm going to show you guys here, I would highly encourage everybody to, as soon as you're done here, if you have access to the Academy, jump in here and join our LinkedIn group. So when we think about the Academy, one of the very first ideas that we had was we wanted to create this sense of community within the senior living industry. And I know that in pockets, like here in Omaha, for example, where I'm at, we have a wonderful group called the Greater Omaha Retirement Housing Group. I know over in the UK, Piers is really working with a group of people to form, senior living minds. I think Lincoln has something similar in Nebraska. And so we want to be able to create a place for all of our members to come together, whether you're in, whether you're Lena up in Canada, or you're in California or Washington or in London, wherever you're at, to be able to connect with one another. And so when you're in the academy here, if you just click on Access Now, this is a private LinkedIn group that's specific just for our members. So we're up to about 300 members already. This is a place where you can go in. If you click into that, you should be able to have access. If you don't, you can request access into this group. So this is a place for you guys to be able to ask questions. For example, Piers posted in here a week ago about executive director involvement. So after watching one of the master classes, he went, you know what? I wonder what everybody else does for executive directors, because ours don't really do much in the way of sales, and I think it could be helpful. So he posted a question in here. We posted the webinar poll results from our last webinar in here. As we begin our book club, we're going to post questions and things in here, and we'll start to, as we get more and more members, we'll start to have one big group, and then we'll segment out some groups as well, maybe for CCRCs or independent livings or memory care only communities, so that we can start to have a little bit more specific conversations with everybody in the industry. And so we would love for you guys to click in there, sign into the academy, click in, and join the group. So that is the LinkedIn group. Now the next section I'm going to show you here. So Podbean. And some of you guys might be going, what's Podbean? So Podbean is the platform that we host our podcasts on. And the reason that we chose that and didn't choose like Spotify or Apple or anything like that is because we wanted our podcast to be private for just our members. And so there may be occasionally when we put a podcast out publicly that we think would really benefit, a nonprofit or the senior living industry in general. But largely our podcasts are private to just our members. So if you haven't done this yet, what I would encourage you all to do is, if you see this password right here, this is going to be very important. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to highlight this and you want to copy it. Because when you click on this button to get into the Podbean account, it's going to ask you for that private code, and you're going to simply put that in. I've already registered. It'll ask you to create an account. And as you log in, of course, it's not going to remember my password now. Let's see if I can remember it. I did. What you're going to do is you're going to go in and there'll be a button up here that says follow. You're going to want to follow the One-on-One Sales Academy on Podbean. And then from here, you can download the app on your phone and sign in, and you can click the podcast that you follow. You'll be able to take the podcast on the go. I know I listen to podcasts in two different ways. I listen to them in the car when I'm by myself instead of music, and I listen to them on my morning walks. And so this way you can download the Podbean app on your phone and take these wherever you go throughout the day. Any questions on any of these sections that we've covered so far? I just want to encourage you guys too, if you ever do have questions, you can email hello@oneonone.com, and somebody will get back to you as quickly as we possibly can. So if you have questions about getting any of this set up or anything like that, feel free to email that. You can email me, reed@oneonone.com. We might have the easiest email address out of any company, or Ramona at One-on-One, or David at One-on-One, Kent, or Francisco as well. So the next section down here, I told you guys, this is where your favorites are going to be. So as you can see, I have 3 favorites listed on here. I have Mike's Masterclass, I have Robert Grammatica's podcast, and I have Kelly's webinar, which was the last webinar that we did. And so your favorites are going to follow you no matter where you go throughout the portal. You can also see that I've completed Kelly's, so it'll give me a little note up there that I've completed it. You can also see that I'm really interested in going to this event, so it'll remind you down at the bottom as well. So that's the dashboard on the Academy. Now we're going to kind of get into the content. We're going to jump in here, and I want to show you guys the master classes. So these are going to be the multi-part series. They range anywhere from 3 parts to 7 parts. They range anywhere from about 8 minutes to 19 minutes, although I would say largely they're about 10-minute videos each. And so you're gonna hear here we have a recommended video, which is David and I's introduction to the Sales Academy, which is a 7-part series about prospect centered selling. And it's kind of like your 101 level course where if you're gonna start anywhere, this is probably the place to start. Again, you can see my favorites are always gonna be right there. And then you can jump in here, and these are gonna be all of the different master classes that we have to offer. And what I want to show you guys is that you can filter these down. So if you're thinking to yourself, you know what, as a sales leadership thing, I'm really struggling. I'd love to be able to have some ideas for what metrics should I be measuring? What are some management ideas? If you simply click on that, it's going to filter down all of the sales master classes that deal with leadership or analytics. And you can say, you know what, that's not quite enough. I want to be able to understand how to plan more advances. You can click that and it'll add those courses as well. And to get back to the beginning, you can either hit clear filters or you can just simply click those as well. Now, I want to give you guys a little bit more of a deep dive down into the classes as well. So when you click on details here, what this is going to do is this is going to show you what the title is. You can show whether or not you can see that it says continue watching. So I've started watching some of Aaron's. It gives you 3 learning objectives at the top. It gives you a description of the class as well as a short bio on who Aaron Cato is. As you scroll down here to the beginning, you can click on this. This is the video that I've started. You can jump back in to where you left off. You can also see that there's some specific resources that are tied to Aaron's video. So if you watched Aaron's video and you go, you know what, I'd love to be able to download some of those resources, you just click here. You can download it. I'll show you where else you can go to download information too. And again, it shows you some related content down here at the bottom. Any questions on the master classes? All right, great. I must be doing a fantastic job. The next section here is going to be, these are going to be the videos. So these are going to be a collection of different content. This is where the video for every podcast is going to be uploaded every week. This is going to be where if you weren't able to join us today, or you had to jump off, or you just thought, you know what, Reed did such a good job that I want to go back in there and watch that again. This is where all of these webinars are going to be uploaded. And this is where we also upload any of the other videos that we've done as well. There's some other webinars that we've done. There's some other video content that we have available, like the documentary Time to Get Ready, that follows 2 prospects, their families, and the sales team through the sales journey from kind of inquiry to move-in. It's a really great documentary. It's actually won some awards at film festivals. I would highly encourage you. I think it's actually the second video that we recommend that you go in and watch. You can watch podcasts on a number of different things. You can watch webinars on here, and you can also watch the extra content that we put out on here too. So this is where the majority of the content is going to be uploaded to on the most regular basis, I would say. There's also a really great resident ambassador panel in here where we sat down and interviewed 6 residents about the sales journey as well. So really good information in there with that as well. So those are some more of the videos. The next section I'm going to show you guys is the resources. So this is going to be a page that will continuously be growing. At the end of the webinar today, I'm actually going to tell you one of the other ways that this is going to grow. And so we're really excited about this because what you can do is you can go in here and download different PDF resources. So this is the Stages of Change questions guide. So you can actually go in and see, hey, depending on where somebody's at in the process, here's some questions that I could go through and ask them. And might give you some ideas about information that you could get or additional things that you want to ask. Or maybe if you're stuck and you go, I don't even know what to call this person about because every time I call, they don't have anything for me. Well, here's some ideas to spark. So you can use that. There's chat transcripts from the webinars. There's sales performance data. There's different worksheets. We're going to be uploading in the next couple of weeks. One of the things that's coming in is we're going to be uploading an exercises area where you with your teams by yourself, it's a collection of different exercises that we've amassed over the years, whether we've done them or somebody else has come up with them. And we'll be uploading those resources here. So this will be an ever-growing section. I would say make sure that you stay tuned to the newsletter that comes out every Tuesday because that's going to update you guys when we add information into here. And then the last section that I'm going to show you, or like second to last section that I'm going to show you in the portal is the events page. So this is where you can go to get caught up on what's coming up. So you can see that we have the Sales Summit coming up in December. I know I saw a few of you guys that are here that are going to be there. We would love for you to join us in St. Louis in December. We're bringing in all of our master presenters as well as quite a few other speakers to be able to come in and talk about sales for a day and a half. Listen, no offense to the marketing people here, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about how to convert more leads into happy, healthy residents at your communities. And so we'll be having that. Again, it tells you about the event that I'm interested in, and then it lists out the other upcoming webinars that we have. So the last section that I'll show you is I just wanted to quick show you your profile where you can go in. You can change your name if you get married, if you get unmarried, if you decide to just change your name. You can change your name in here, update your photo. You can go in if your role changes. You can select different areas of interest. You can update your biography information in here. So that's just a quick kind of, maybe not so quick, but a little spin through the portal, or not portal, through the academy. And this is the profile section here. So I tell you what, one of the things that I want to do, and I know we've only got about 22 minutes left here, but I'm going to turn it over, and Patrick, I'll share my screen here. So I'm going to put Patrick and Piers on the spot. Piers, feel free to kind of chime in as we go through. Everybody's going to want to hear your unbelievable accent. Not that Patrick doesn't also sound amazing, but I would love for Patrick to kind of walk us through how he envisions using the portal, or the academy, sorry, the academy, to be able to help his team. And we really appreciate him putting this together from the perspective of the salesperson in the company. So Patrick, I'm going to turn this over to you, and I'll share my screen, and just let me know when you want me to click through to the next slide.
Awesome. Thanks, Reed. And thanks so much for having me. It's awesome to see so many familiar faces on there. A lot of you have talked to recently, have known over the years. So to me, this is one of the coolest parts about being a member. What Reed just showed you is amazing. There's so much great content that's constantly being updated. But having access to these monthly webinars and to see all the amazing people across the industry each month, and hopefully those conversations continue at conferences and offline and through the LinkedIn group as well. So this is just awesome. But for those that don't know me, as Reed mentioned, I'm Patrick Leonard. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at the Gatesworth community. And one of the things I love so much about the senior living industry is that so many people have amazing stories of how they got into it. My story's a little less interesting. I didn't really have a choice. I was one of the lucky ones that was born into this amazing industry. My dad has been a developer and operator of senior living my entire life. I've also been fortunate enough to be the loved one of 4 family members who have lived in different senior living communities before they passed, and got to visit them in the communities. I grew up working part-time, maintenance, construction, dining, and more in the community. And I've also been fortunate enough to be on the other side of the industry as well, where I've partnered and consulted on the technology side of the senior living industry with over 1,000 communities across North America and the UK as well. So now I'm lucky enough to be back here on the operator side for the past 2 years as the Chief Revenue Officer of the Gatesworth. And it's kind of a homecoming. It's been amazing. So I feel very fortunate to kind of carry on the legacy here at the Gatesworth that David and my dad and Charlie started 35 plus years ago. And it's been an incredible ride. So for those who, David gave you a little bit of a background on Gatesworth communities, but just for perspective, we are located here in St. Louis. We have 4 communities that are locally owned and operated, and we span the full continuum. We have 297 independent living apartments, 135 assisted living and memory care here on the same campus, as well as our extended care, which is skilled nursing, with 59 apartments here. We also have a second campus about 15 minutes down the road. That's all 121 apartments of standalone memory care called Park Provence. So we were kind of the first of its kind when David dreamed up this vision years ago here in St. Louis and across the country. And we're also fortunate enough to be kind of ground zero and the birthplace of prospect-centered selling. So while we may be a little biased on our belief in prospect-centered selling and why it was a no-brainer to join the Academy, I think there's some other reasons that I'll talk about as well that kind of made it a no-brainer for us. So, you know, with prospect-centered selling, I mean, the way that I kind of thought about how we could use the Academy and why the Academy was important to us is obviously it's over the last 35 years, we've been fortunate that it's just fully ingrained into our culture, both from a sales perspective and operationally. So it would have been easy for us to say, oh, we know this stuff. We don't need additional training. We don't need access to this or the extra cost per month in our budget to allocate towards this. But to me, you know, in addition to that, we're fortunate enough where we've been averaging across our communities 99% plus full for over the last year. So it would have been easy for us to say, hey, we don't need additional resources for this. We got this. But to me, it was much the opposite. You know, we don't want to lose that. We don't want to lose the success that got us here. We don't want to lose that culture and that prospect-centered selling mindset that got us here. And we want to continue to invest in our teams and provide access to ongoing resources to make them successful. So that is lived out every single day in our daily morning sales meetings. It's lived out in the key metrics we track. And now it's going to be lived out through the ongoing resources that is provided here in the Academy for us. So the challenge that I came across when I kind of put together how we're thinking about rolling this out, and I'm excited to hear how other people have been rolling it out and plan to roll it out at their communities as well. But to me, it came back to how to focus everybody's time. There's so many amazing resources in there. There's so many amazing thought leaders from across the industry in there who are sharing their own adaptation of prospect-centered selling and how they found it successful across the world. And so for me, it all came back to the 5 pillars. So while the portal itself is so intuitive and kind of guiding you to, you know, what to view and to work through next, I thought it would be helpful to kind of just come up with our own internal roadmap that we could start to use for our teams, and obviously to share with other members to adapt and utilize how they see fit. So as I was thinking about it, you know, I thought first and foremost, you know, it's important to hone in on the paradigm shift. So that is kind of the key differentiator of prospect-centered selling versus product-centered selling. And then everything after that kind of goes in tandem, right? You have to connect before you can untangle. You have to entangle before you can plan to advance. And then what are the metrics we're looking at? How are we actually tracking this and measuring this on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? So that was my mindset as we kind of put this together. Reed, you can go ahead to the next slide there. I know you got a little trigger happy there, so go ahead. So we kind of put together this quick checklist for success for us, you know, because it can be overwhelming to pop in there and you see hours of content, you see all these familiar faces across the industry that you might want to start clicking in, diving in. I think that's awesome. If that works for you, great. But I always like to put a little bit of a structure and process behind things. And so that's what I thought would be most helpful for us, given that everybody's so busy on a daily basis working with prospects and following up with prospects and jumping into last minute walk-in tours, that we don't want training on this ongoing amazing resource to go to the wayside. So I'll kind of go into how we actually, after this, you know, kind of week by week, month by month, how we're thinking about it. But just at a quick snapshot, you know, we try to break it into, all right, initially we want to gain some real traction around our team utilizing this. So we thought the best place to start was with the master classes. Those in particular are awesome because not only are they broken up into those pillars like the rest of the content, but they're also in very small, bite-sized, 10 minutes or so around there, snippets that you can easily incorporate into your daily meeting, a quick lunch and learn, or whenever you have a few minutes to decompress after a tour maybe, that you can start chipping away at those. Starting at month 3, you'll see that we kind of, after completing the master classes, really diving into the podcasts, which are a little bit more long form, usually around 45 minutes to an hour, and are really good, as Reed mentioned, to listen on your walk, your drive, or even, you know, there's great video content in here in the portal as well, tied to those podcasts. So that helps bring it to life for me. So even sitting down with your team and watching them there.
And Patrick, one thing I just wanted to point out too is that we'll send this out to everybody afterwards. So if you're sitting there taking notes or you're like, oh, that's a good idea, we're going to send you guys out this quick checklist, and then we'll send you out a little roadmap as well after the call and it'll also be uploaded to the resource center on the academy as well. So it'll kind of give you guys the course that if you wanted to follow it exactly, you could, or you could just take bits and pieces of it to help implement with yourself or your teams as well.
Yeah, now I really got to watch my mouth if it's going to be uploaded to the portal. All right. So yeah, and then these monthly webinars. So that third point there, I think these are awesome. I know our team has utilized already just using it as an excuse to, hey, let's buy lunch for the team. Let's all sit around and watch this together. It's over the lunch hour. If we don't have a lunch tour, obviously that takes priority. But if we can all do that, great. And then you have an opportunity to afterwards sit and chat about it for a few minutes and share best practice and ideas. I think that's an awesome way to implement any of this stuff. Is just make it an actual intentional event where you're doing coffee, breakfast, lunch, whatever it is with the team, and viewing it all together when at all possible. And then yeah, take the time to actually talk about it. It's one thing to see it and forget it, but actually that's why I think getting together as a team to view these is so valuable, because it forces you to kind of connect with your team about it and share different perspectives on what you just learned. And then obviously the one-on-one team's awesome. So if you ever need anything or have any questions or have even ideas for content, they're a great resource for you. So this is just kind of a quick snapshot we put together. So I went into detail and actually breaking it down week by week for the first 2 months. And again, everything is centered around in order of the pillars 1 through 5. So I started off with the paradigm shift, the welcome to the sales academy, which is the intro to the prospect centered selling, kind of prospect centered selling 101 with David and Reed. It's a great intro overlay for anybody, a good refresher, or great for new folks. And then I think it's really important to view the documentary up front. To me, it gets me every single time. If you want to see a grown man cry, just come watch the documentary with me. But it's such a wonderful, wonderful reminder as to why we all do what we do. And it's real life accounts, if you haven't watched it, of real prospects going through the process and working live conversations and reflections and what they were saying, and most importantly, what they were feeling as they were going through the process of making the decision to move. So we're very fortunate that a lot of that, that was done with a couple of our Gatesworth prospects and some of our awesome Gatesworth team members. So worth the watch. And I, again, highly recommend watching that up front, because then you're not going to want to stop once you start there. And then, week 2, introduction to prospect centered selling. Again, that's a great groundwork with the paradigm shift and kind of an overview of everything. Then I kind of dove into the next pillar of connection. Because again, I think that's so important we got to connect before we can do anything else. First and foremost, we have to build that trust. So I really focused in, and this is where you can leverage where Reed mentioned, clicking on the connection pillar within the portal to filter by all of the videos and master classes that are specifically focused on connection. So I kind of just took a page out of that book and organized first. Let's start with the ones that focus on connection. So you see Kelly and Michael's here. And then really diving through to connecting and then to untangling, of course. So the next couple of weeks focus on all the master classes that had to do with anything with untangling. Kristen's is amazing. Aaron's is amazing if you guys haven't watched them. So, and it's just so awesome to see the different perspectives here, right? Again, we're very fortunate that we have David's, the founder of Prospect Centered Selling here, but I think it's so valuable to bring in these other voices who adapt it to their own use and who are doing their own training. And this is just a supplement and not a replacement for any of that. And then you really get into the podcast. So again, these could be sprinkled at any time, just as in an effort to kind of focus week by week and make it an easy roadmap. I kind of broke it out in the same way here. Any of the podcasts that are do with the paradigm shift and connection, untangling, planning, and then really diving into the metrics that matter to track all this.
Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate you kind of walking us through how you see this being used. So I want to give a couple minutes too here to Piers as well. And when Piers and I were kind of visiting about how they're using the academy, they're using it a little bit differently, but it was interesting to kind of hear how Piers was using this and kind of some of the things that he realized as he was going. So I'm going to turn it over for just a couple of minutes here to Pierce. So again, Pierce is from Birchgrove. He doesn't talk funny. This is his actual accent, and it is fantastic. If you love it, you can actually, he has a two-part podcast that we did with him because one, I enjoy talking to him so much just because of his knowledge, and two, he has so many wonderful things to say about the sales process and what they've done over at Birchgrove. So, Pierce, go ahead. I'd love to hear kind of your take on how you guys have used it and what it's done to help your team as well.
Yeah, hi there, everyone, and so good to see everyone. So yeah, Piers from Birchgrove. I'm the head of leasing here. We have 8 communities. Most of them are in Surrey, which I appreciate. Most of you probably won't know where that is, but if you think of the movie The Holiday with Cameron Diaz and her in the Mini driving through the snow, that's where our communities are. So with us and the Sales Academy, what I've really loved about it so far is not just from a personal point of view, but also from my team's point of view as well, is we've really used it as, or I've really used it as a complete sort of reset. I think, and I don't know how you guys feel, but there's so much noise that goes on in our communities, whether that's our neighbours who live with us, or the influencers, sons or daughters, or from our own team, investors, senior management. You must get this reservation, you must get that. I've really used it as a bit of a reset, just to sort of stick to the core pillars. And I've already watched the introduction to prospect centered selling probably 2 or 3 times, just to have that real reset, every time that yeah, I feel that I need to get back to the core principles. Um, and a couple of different sort of other ways that I've been using it as well is that I suppose very much within the UK that it's quite new, senior living and assisted living, specifically, and the ideas that I've got from it, which we have used. I mean, watching Patrick's video and him talking about his ambassador program, where 40% of the move-ins at the Gatesworth are through the ambassador program, was amazing. So Patrick was actually very kind. I jumped on a call with him to ask him how did he do that. And in turn, what that's done for my team is that there's a particular neighborhood, in a place called Leatherhead, where they've been struggling with conversions, and this was just a new idea that I could give to them to sort of run with, and really empower them in terms of their journey to sort of take it to the next level. So it's been a really sort of great dynamic in terms of sort of switching things up at different communities as well, which has been amazing. Um,
Pierce, hold on. I wanted to jump in real
sure.
quick and sorry to interrupt, but I think that you
Sorry.
said something there that was fantastic. And it was one of the really founding reasons why we created the Academy is that you said, you saw that and you reached out to Patrick. And
Mm,
so I would encourage you guys, if you guys see something in the Academy, all of the people that we bring in are incredibly accessible. You can reach out to them on LinkedIn. You can connect with all of them. I know most of them personally. If you have a question, if you see something they say and you say, you know what, I want to dive into that a little bit more. That's the idea behind the LinkedIn group, behind creating this, is that no matter where we're at, is that yes, maybe some of us might be competitors, but at the end of the day, we're all just trying to help as many older people as we can. And so to be able to create that sense of community and that we might not be now, clearly Pierce is not, you know, and Birchgrove is not competing with anybody over here. But one of the things I admire most about Pierce is that he is not afraid to reach out and ask a question. And I think we all have wonderful ideas and wonderful resources that we can point people towards. And so I encourage you guys to do that. Don't be afraid to reach out. So thank you for that reminder, Pierce. I appreciate it. And sorry to interrupt you.
no, of course, of course. And I was realizing as you're going through your demo, I didn't respond to your answer, so apologies about that. Thank
Oh,
you.
get on LinkedIn and respond to me, will you? Jeez, how am I supposed to feel
Yeah, I
good
know.
about
How rude.
myself?
How rude. How
Yeah.
dare I? But yeah, no, it's for me, it's been an incredible resource already, and as you sort of touched on there, is as I go through the videos, I just think it makes me sort of stop self-reflect and go, hang on, are we doing that? Could we do that a bit better? And I've had probably 3 or 4 of those moments already. And how we're sort of going to be using it moving forward with our teams is if I notice that my team, one of my teams or team members is maybe struggling with a certain bit of of the journey, I'm gonna ask them to, well, both of us to go and watch a certain part of a video and then sit down and then see what thoughts both of us have and then how we can potentially overcome that sort of struggle, I suppose. Because I think sometimes actually having a different voice and having someone who's outside the organization who's giving you some advice, giving you different ideas in terms of how to approach certain situations, can sometimes be far more effective than if it's just me the whole time going, "Hey, have you tried this? What do you think about that? What do you think about that?" So that's one part which I'm really excited to delve into. And you mentioned there in terms of the community, and this is where I'd love everyone to join because I think if we could get that LinkedIn community really rolling, people asking lots of questions, there'll just be so many learnings for all of us on that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and thank you, Piers. I appreciate that. And, I can tell you the number one thing I hear when people reach out to me about doing sales training is that their teams are tired of hearing their voice. Or maybe their
Mm,
voice just becomes kind of like the Charlie Brown teacher where it's like, wah, wah,
mm,
wah, 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 and they bring in somebody else with a different voice to be able to say that. And the other thing too, and this is what I'm excited to roll out, is that as most of you guys know, we have e-learning that's going to be coming out in Q4. But one of the biggest things that we're hearing is we want to make sure that our teams are doing this. We want to be able to learn ourselves. How can we do that? And so what we're going to be rolling out in the next week for all of the sales master classes, and then within the next, I think, 2 weeks for all of the podcast episodes, is we're going to be rolling out in the resource center, and then also attached to each video is going to be we're going to be putting out pre and post tests. And so we're really excited to be able to launch some of these pre-tests and post-tests in the academy. And what we're going to do is we're going to not only put these out, but then we're going to also provide an answer key. Because I want to make sure as a resource, as a learning resource, that you guys have the ability to go in and not only test, but this is not so much like a punitive test as far as like if you don't do this or score this, you're going to be in trouble. But we want to provide you with the answers too, so that as you go back through, and Pierce made a great point where he said, I've even gone back in and rewatched some of these videos, is that you have the opportunity to go, oh, you know what? I might not have gotten that right, but I get it, and be able to go back and watch. And I would encourage you guys to watch, rewatch. So we're going to be, for all of the sales master classes, we're going to be launching pre-tests that are going to be coming up, and the answer keys as well in the resource center and tied to the video. And then for all of the podcasts, as well as the master classes, we're going to be putting out some post tests as well. And so every video, every piece of content that we put out in the portal, we want to be able to tie a learning experience to it. So we're going to be putting out these tests so that you can go in and be looking for, what do I need to really be looking for? What's important? And then we're going to provide you guys with the answer key as well, so that you can even grade yourselves as you go in and watch this. So we're really excited to be launching that. Our e-learning, like I said, is going to be rolling out in the next quarter. The first course is going to be about 3.5 hours long, which you go, oh my God, Reed, that sounds so long. Listen, it's broken up into like 3.5 to 5 minute chunks. So just like everything else in the portal, you'll be able to have these short kind of learning opportunities. Because if you're anything like me and I'm your typical salesperson, my attention span is no longer than 15 minutes max. And so we designed everybody as if you were all me. And, some people that know me might even say that 15 minutes is generous. But we want to be able to create learning opportunities for everybody, no matter how long your attention span is. So I know we're at the end of time. I appreciate everybody joining us. If you have questions, feel free to stick on. If not, we will see you on the next webinar, which is going to be focusing on data that drives sales. I'm really excited for that one. We'd love for you to join us in December. Until next time, cheers, everybody.